Hi, my name is Pascal and I run a service called Sharpen.page. I'm running a series of videos on creating struggle first pages. That's how I call them. I did a few videos on using popular site builders to make the kind of page that I like. And last time I did a video on page ingredients, how one of the page ingredients you're probably dismissing is the understanding of what goes on in the mind of your visitor as they go down the page. And I introduced the idea of the forces of progress. The forces of progress being these sort of forces in the mind of the buyer that are pushing and pulling toward action, back toward doing nothing about their problem, etc. So, what's attractive about your solution? What's creating anxieties? And you can check out the video if you'd like to know more. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running through a page that I think works really well, which I did an article for, and we're going to go analyze in this video. We're going to analyze this page and see how well it works to help the visitor feel like they're in the right place and that they're going to be interested in hiring Garrett Dimon, the owner of this service. Before we even look at the page, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story that a potential visitor might be going through. So they're developing an application. So they're developing a Rails app, and this Rails app sends emails to like, for example, new accounts, things that are happening in your account, for example, how to change your password. You've just been notified of this. This happened on your software, etc. Do something about it. So all these transactional emails, or any email that is about notifying the user. So a developer or a CTO, a chief technology officer, for example, would be developing some features for the app, and there might be some bugs sometimes. And one of those kinds of bugs would be relating to emails, or they're trying to develop something new and it's relating to emails. And that's a bit the context. But that's not enough to say, well, I can help you, solve your email problems. Because the thing is that through all that, there is going to be the fact that these developers, they know how to do stuff. They know how to build. So they're builders, and regardless of whether they're developers or whatnot, you might be thinking for your own service, people would be still inclined to do it themselves. If they do it themselves, then what are they going to be doing? So that's going to be one big part of what we're going to be talking about today, is this do-it-myself mentality. It happens to be the habit of the present, which is the force that is about those "I'll just" statements that are going on in the mind of the visitor, of the buyer. I'll just figure it out myself. I'll just search online for an answer. I'll just continue with my mishmash of solutions. I'll continue doing the things that I've always been doing, or I'll be still advancing towards something new, but it's going to be something that I'll take on myself. And so these "I'll just" statements, basically. So we're going to be back to that. But in the life of a developer, there's going to be these moments when they're going to be working on the rest of the code of the app, and then the stuff that they're good at. Okay, I'm good at this part here, and then there's the stuff about emails that you don't do a lot of as a developer. You sometimes go in that realm, and then you go back to what you're comfortable doing. So email is something that is sort of working, but there is, a tip of the iceberg. It's just a mountain of potential problems. So that's what I'm understanding of a bit the context of these developers. So we're looking at the left side here of these forces of progress, the context of the visitor, the struggles, and what they would be defaulting back to, what they would be doing, saying I'll just, and what they will be doing about that. So the one big concept here is that not only are they good at this code part, but it's kind of their specialty, and the email part is not a specialty for them. So what are they going to do? If they have a project that's coming up and they have like basically 2 weeks or something like that to work on it, how much are they going to allocate to email problems versus everything else? Features, bugs, like etc. So what ends up happening is that email gets put off to later. It gets sent to, we'll just do it eventually. That ends up happening a lot. And if they have to do something about it, then they will be forced to do a few things. They'll go into forums, Stack Overflow. They'll be asking around, on a Slack of some sort, that they're part of, or friends or whatever. They're going to be asking around for help on solving that specific email problem if they were going to do it themselves. But at a certain point in time, and this is what this is mounting the struggle a little bit more, is that at a certain point in time, they're going to be, something is going to be happening. Something came up. And it's like a bit outside of the norm, okay? So it's either a big bug, or maybe it's like they just increase their visitor count or signups, and all of a sudden they're inundated with work, and this email part is getting a lot bigger than normal. It's been put off all this time. There's like a mounting, list of things to do around email, but at a certain point, it becomes too much. So what do? Do they allocate people to do email stuff within their work? This is going to be about email here, and this too. What do? At a certain point, something came up. It's a big bug. It's forcing them to choose, and so they have to do trade-offs. Those trade-offs are kind of like, do I allocate people to do email stuff or develop other things? So that's the point that's interesting. And this is where application email, this service comes and is interesting. So the context is something came up. Something came up about email, and something came up that we don't want to trade between working on features and becoming an expert in email. Because in order to solve this kind of bug, you got to become an expert in the email, sort of like this big nebulous, bunch of variables that you never touch, but all of a sudden it's important. And you don't want to learn that much about it. You'd rather go back and do your specialty. So that's the context that that I think is brilliant about a specific kind of problem like application email in Rails. It happens, it occurs at a certain frequency that these problems occur. Email is essential for the business service for the delivery of the business, and it's got to get fixed. But people don't want to become a specialty. All that said, the visitor comes to the site, and they're already full of this sort of like struggle mentality. we got to do something about this. So they ask around. They ask for friends. Do you know anybody that's run into this problem before, etc. And then somebody says, yeah, I know Garrett Dimon, and he's really good at stuff. Check out his site, application email. They land on this site and they say, okay, using Rails, sending email. Yeah, want to help with the email part so you can focus elsewhere. This is super interesting. So at this point, the so you can focus elsewhere is really at the crux of this of this problem, of this trade-off problem. I would rather be working on working on everything else and then let somebody else work on email. And so this ambition, this attraction, this thing that says he understands me, is that builds up on that attraction, is these words, so you can focus elsewhere. You can't build an application without email, but is the email portion of your application really the best use of your development time? So it begs the question, what is hiring Garrett Dimon in competition with? Like most things, it's not about other Garrett Dimons, but Garrett Dimon is more in competition with, I'll do it yourself, but I'll do it myself. And in this case, he says, you've come to a point that you're no longer interested in doing it yourself. Email is a critical piece of your application, but you don't want to do it yourself. It's perfect for outsourcing, freeing up your time. This is basically the promise, and he's going to deliver on it as we go down. If you're like most Rails teams, your investment in your application's email is probably best at getting shortchanged, meaning that there's all this stuff that's piling up, right? Rails does an amazing job making email easier, but it can only get you so far. So then he says, do any of the following sound familiar? You'd like some help improving your email design and development workflows to work better for your team. So you're thinking, that's not quite it, but close, meaning eventually maybe you'd like to improve your automated testing of emails to catch issues faster. Yeah, I guess that's one way to mitigate how we got here, well, we haven't been doing it. Your team is slow to update emails because of a design development. Yeah, sort of. The rest of your application has automated tests, but everybody dreads touching the email for fear of breaking something. This is phenomenal, getting into the mind of the person. He understands them. You're unsure whether your deliverability is great or terrible. There's no way that as an email person, I'm going to understand, like who's the big source of truth, for deliverability. I don't know. I don't know where I could tell where my I heard of this site here, but is that the authoritative way to know? I don't want to know the details. I don't want to research it. I don't want to spend a minute of it there. But I kind of know it's important when it gets terrible. And I don't want to be terrible. I'd rather be great. Your support team struggles to investigate reports. So all of a sudden it's about the support team. Yeah, totally. The problem came from our support team. And I have no idea how to to get into the bottom of where that problem lies, And so on and on and on. So at this point, he's like, out of this list, I found the thing that he's talking about that is impacting us. He nailed it. But then something happens, is that, wow, he really understands. So it becomes really attractive. He understands a lot of the stuff. But then there's this anxiety that starts to pile up. It's like, well, he must be expensive because he's got so much experience. We don't need somebody who's so good, and that's probably going to be an expensive hire. And so at this point, you might, anxieties about price are always around, right? And so you might be thinking, what are we going to do about that? So for those people that are having that anxiety, they're going to be saying, we'll revert back to doing it ourselves, and maybe we will figure out something on our own dime. And so for these people, they're going to be leaving, they're going to be clicking back at this point in the page. So maybe something to do here on this page. Maybe something can be improved. We'll come back to that later. And then he goes on, a variety of any other challenge with your transactional email. So I'm assuming that the people that are continuing to read thoroughly or scroll, whatever, they're so people probably have scrolled, gone to the bottom, and then are going to come back up and read again. That's totally okay. So if you're continuing to read, it's because your attraction is still there. Anxiety maybe a little bit, but overall it's still pointing in the direction of continue. Email doesn't have to suck. And then, okay, you and your customers deserve. So this is, I love this line. You and your customers deserve. Now, what he's doing is he's stopping the I understand your problem part of the page. Now he's describing, let's just imagine that it's all fixed and it's been fixed for a little while. And this is basically what you'll be celebrating you'll have done. So let's imagine it's all finished and you're in a different place. So this is a pain dream fix layout style, which this page is built on. The dream. This is the dream part. Deep insight into deliverability. Yes, I want this. Transparent status and monitoring tools. Yeah, that would be great. Confidence that an email from your domain is not a scam and it's not going to be flagged as a scam. Totally a rock solid and enjoyable experience receiving, opening, and even replying to email notifications. Well-tested templates, email provider that cares as much or more than you do about your emails. Like, you're going to get all this stuff and it's going to be glorious. Now he's saying, okay, now that's what I can help you deliver on. Like, I can get you there, but let's talk about the concrete stuff. When we work together at the end result is you'll spend less time dealing with the email. So back to the promise, back to the job to be done. I want to get somebody on email to solve the problem so we can work on something else. That is what you'd be hiring Garrett for that job. It's less time dealing with email, more time improving your product. The email side just works, is the end result. And you get a ton of email knowledge. So all of a sudden, like, wow, this is racking up the attraction. By working with Garrett, we'll be learning stuff. We don't want to figure it out by ourselves in a do-it-yourself kind of manner. We don't want to do that. We're like, no, I want to still learn from the process, and we'll know, our team is going to be able to know what really matters and what we can ignore, because he knows his stuff. A seamless development workflow, best possible user experience for receiving email, happy customers, yeah, etc. Now, at this point, if it's the developer reading this and you're like, wow. So I'm not really sure, is Garrett the super expensive? Not sure. But then there's a mounting anxiety. I'm going to have to vouch for this guy to my CTO for this expense, etc. I'm not going to be the one making the call, or maybe whatever. With Garrett and stuff, is my boss going to be fine with this guy? So here on the page, howdy, I'm Garrett Dimon. Proof. I wrote the book about it. etc. A list apart article, guide to transactional email. I'm very familiar with Rails and email. Like, boom, 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 tons of stuff. You see his face. He's a real person. It's not an agency out to screw you. Lots of trust happening here. Lots of attraction. So at this point, this page is like gloriously good. Look at these things. Like, you got like big struggle captured from the text, and then big attraction, not too much anxiety. And what about the habits of the present? Maybe what's going to happen is that not now. I'm not going to be on the call. It's going to be my CTO, etc. So the not now is probably going to be a little bit bigger. And remember that the anxieties and the habits, and especially the habits, that's usually a huge, strong force. that pulls back toward the gravity well of saying no, not now, anything, right? It's just really, really gravity bound. So, but what ends up happening here is at the bottom of the page is catching these people that are about to leave. And I'll show you why. Earlier, I said over here there may be a place where we could do something about those people that are thinking of leaving, because this is probably where it's going to happen. The bottom of the page pulls it off anyways. So the bottom of the page is great because people scroll, and the bottom of the page is like really quick to get to. You just scroll and then you get to it. And it's the place where you see his face, you see his email. It's really great, all in one spot. But then there's like, if you're not sure, and you're like, I'm rooting for this Garrett guy. I want, but I got to convince myself to whatever. While you're here, how about you answer a quick survey? So now it's great because this little thing is not about solving the problem of email, but it's about starting to be on the road to solving email problems together with Garrett by answering a survey. That's going to get me thinking. Maybe one of the anxieties about contacting Garrett is I don't know where to start. I don't know how to describe the problem that we have that we have at our company. Maybe I'm going to look dumb. All these things. By answering the survey, I'm going to be a little bit more educated about how email works by the time I call, like I'm on the phone with Garrett. So by answering the quick survey, there's more of the, okay, that's going to get the ball rolling as something small. I'll educate myself a little bit by answering the survey, boom, boom, boom. And Garrett gets, a survey result. And then, so this is brilliant. It's a nice way to catch for those people. So that's what I call a great page. What could we do for those people that are just about to leave right about this spot? Like I said earlier, maybe you could say something in the margin that says something like something that addresses. So you don't want to be saying, yeah, I know all this stuff and I'm not too expensive. You don't want to be saying that, but to address these people that are probably saying, this guy's probably overkill. Maybe this is the spot where you could get them to leave with something else. Maybe a few articles that he wrote about it, like links to a few articles that he wrote. So maybe he's overqualified, maybe he's full of it, whatever. Like this is maybe the place where you could do it, and it's people going to be leaving anyways. So this might be a good place to get them to have something they can leave with. So they click a link to an article or something, or to a guide or one of these things that he wrote in the past. That might be a way to catch these people that are on their way out anyways. So, but otherwise, this is a great page. If you want to learn more, or if you want if you want to pass this analysis around, there's this article here on my blog, sharpexampleapplicationemail.com. I go and some of the same things, and I'll be making more of these videos on creating struggle first pages, for more of these site builders, more of the theory behind what makes a great struggle first page, and more of these sort of forces run through videos of other sites that I find. And so I hope you subscribe if you're interested. All right, till next time.